How are you guys doing? My late night team, Ben and Trevor. How are y'all holding up? I mean, I know this is the least tired I've ever been at this hour of Fantastic Fest on a Saturday. All things considered, like my head doesn't hurt. I'm not like going, anybody have a water? Like, it's not.
It's the most sober I've been leaving a feud. I'll say that.
For sure.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, anybody who watches this, they do this thing called Fantastic Feud at Fantastic Fest, and it is a big drunken game show that's run by a whole bunch of people who put it together, but they get a bunch of sort of horror luminaries to come on and be the guests in it, or the contestants, and it's just always a good time, and it's very audience participatory, and I was really curious how they were going to do it without, how it usually is, all of us drunk in an audience yelling shit at the stage, which is the normal Fantastic Feud. But they managed to make it kind of work using the Scener app, and I was admittedly impressed.
Yeah, we had a lot of good interaction with that one. Chris got called out a few times, which was nice.
Not in a good way, though.
No, in the chat, you got called out a few times. Like there was like cat reactions on where somebody goes, "Oh yeah, one of us is going to know this one." That was Chris in the chat. Like one of us will have the answers for every one of these cat scares.
Yeah, they had cat scare videos. I didn't know a single one of them. I didn't know any of them.
You didn't even know Pet Cemetery.
I actually was out of the room peeing when they did Pet Cemetery. So
I knew Pet Cemetery.
That one just by the actors.
Brian was so excited for Halloween 2. He was like, Halloween 2, right now. I'm like, all right, Brian. I helped Brian try to prep for a Fantastic Feud before, which was like an hour of me and Brian sitting at the bar in the highball with me quizzing him off the survey. And Brian like, I totally forgot there was a survey. I'm like, yes, Brian, I know this. We're going to get you there. But of course, you knew every answer to those questions too. Then so it's like, question. This is what you live for at Fantastic Fest, Brian. Showing up nerd knowledge.
Trevor, you've got a Feud Crew hat, so I'm taking that to mean that at least one year when you were actually in Austin, you were in fact on the Feud Crew.
Yeah, I've helped with the Feud for a few years. Not this year, however. I got the invitation and then it got buried under all sorts of other COVID work-related crap. So I didn't respond in time, but Max always puts together a really good show, and it's a lot of fun. I couldn't find my T-shirt, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have been fully decked out. But this is one of the Feud night is one of the best nights of Fantastic Fest for me because it is something that I get to contribute to. Mm-hmm. And even within that, there is a tight little cluster of people who help out, and it's always great to see them at Fantastic Fest. We all sit together kind of in the front two rows, and that we get bought off with a couple of beers. And so it's always a really good, really fun night.
Yes. And it is, I always encourage people, if they're new to Fantastic Fest, they like, I don't know what there's so many events that are going on and you don't know what to do and what not to do. I was like, if you want to do the event that's going to let you know kind of like who the people behind the scenes actually are, who the people who've been coming here forever are, who people make jokes about, like all the in-jokes, they're all there and usually get pointed and made fun of during the feud or brought up on stage even. So like that is kind of like an essential like cherry breaker of an event for Fantastic Fest.
Oh yeah, and it gives you the best idea of the Fantastic Fest chaos and personality of the fans. Like, there's primary group of the Fantastic Fiends that are longtime fans and goers of the festival. And basically you just understand that group a lot better when you see the feud because everybody walks out of that happy and loving each other, even for shouting, just mean jokes about each other, forgetting the most basic horror knowledge, or to your knowledge, the most basic. I go in there, I thought I knew things about horror movies. I knew I didn't know a ton. I go in there going like, I know nothing. I'm out. This is me making jokes. That's about it. And that's all you need a lot of the time too, is having a good time.
So today, obviously, this was the last thing they did, and they started at 11, which is why this is going on so late. It always goes late. I mean, it's almost like in honor of the very first time they ever did it, which was what sort of set what it ended up becoming, which was just this random weird, like, oh, let's try a trivia thing, sure. And it was like not even all the way full, the room with it, and it started at like midnight or something, but it was all just like staff and like hardcore horror people and like people who were like the directors and writers and actors. And it was this cool little sort of like I don't know, crew of total weirdos that got really fucked up really fast. And before we knew it, it was 2 a.m. And Tim League, the owner, was like, hold on 1 second. And he went and disappeared for like 10 minutes. And we're like, still fucking around. He comes back with a wheelbarrow full of beer he just grabbed from the back. I was like, dig it, everybody. He did that like 3 times.
Yeah.
We went till the sun came up. And then with
karaoke, party when Tim starts looking around for the beer, and then things are about to start at that point.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, if you're on stage, basically you just like wave for a beer. They literally have beer runners for them, and if they can't answer a question on stage, they put it to the audience. The audience answers. If they get it right, they get a beer, and it's like this is exactly chaos that we need at midnight. I remember many of those like. Remembering a large part of the feud, then suddenly I'm an hour and a half later standing just outside the lobby going, wait, what happened? I remember the feud, and then I'm here and semi-sober now. Yes.
I posted a video inside the Fantastic Fest Fiends group today that I usually post at least once a year because it's so great from that first feud where Tim is doing some country song on stage karaoke and he's really fucked up. And Scott Weinberg, the horror critic, comes up like this and hands him a joint and he takes it from him and then he dances off. And I'm always afraid I'm going to get in trouble for posting it, but nobody ever seems to give a shit. So,
I mean, in the Fiends group, definitely nobody gives a shit. That's fair.
Right. I actually asked Tim about it once and he's like, I don't care.
Travis County.
Yeah. I remember the first year when Doug Benson came out. He was doing his screening, and they're like, "Hey, am I allowed to smoke in here?" And he's like, "We're in Travis County as long as you don't say it too much." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to say it all the time." And I'm like, "Oh well, fuck it." And literally, like halfway through the show, he's like, "Hey, everybody got a joint?" So he goes, "It's not legal in Texas, but it's just it's not Wilco. Shut up."
Yeah. Sounds about right. They really should like have a plaque there at that corner by the Alamo. It's like,
Yeah, it's gonna either be named after Doug or after Scott, actually.
What'd you say, Trevor?
The world's best and brightest artists have smoked up here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, let's go into the movies that came out today before the Fantastic Feud. Now, I believe none of us actually went to see the 2:00 screening, which was a repertory screening of the film Daughters of Darkness. I did just want to mention that this new 4K 16-bit scan restoration taken from the original negative that Blue Underground put together, in fact, did get released here. I did not see it. I have about a billion other things I needed to watch, and I'm lame, but I often tend to skip the repertory screenings, and this year was no exception.
Sometimes they'll have a repertory screening that I really want to catch. Like when they had Rick Baker in at a repertory screening of American Werewolf in London, or they had Jeffrey Combs and the late great Stuart Gordon in when they did a screening of Reanimator, and I think they did From Beyond that year as well. So like I want to see those Q&As. I want to get a chance to maybe shake somebody's hand or something, but. Sometimes in the middle of the fest, I'll hit one of those repertory screenings. Like there was a couple that were from the Shaw Brothers that were beautiful restorations of movies.
Oh, yeah.
But just, a movie from a different era is paced a little differently. And when you're hitting it mid-fest, that's usually when I start nodding off in a movie. And that's not a knock against the movie. It's just you only have so much energy, and Fantastic Fest is a energy vortex.
Oh yeah, you get good after the years of knowing exactly what to keep in your car or whatever thing you have there for storing stuff, and exactly when the times are to say, this is the block I'm just going to be there doing that and refreshing myself with water. By the way, thanks to the people who showed up there. Devin, who helped run the Fantastic Feud, just showed up. Hi, Devin. You're awesome.
Devin, good to see it.
Well, let's talk about a movie we did actually see, or at least part of it. I'm so embarrassed.
Finish it finally. Yeah.
The secret screening, Action U.S.A. This was restored in loving 4K, I guess they were saying. It's a 1989 American action film that was directed by a Hollywood stuntman by the name of Jon Stewart, not the Daily Show Jon Stewart, obviously, but who basically got all stunt people to be in it, and it shows. It's like, I mean, in the sense of like, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, the acting's not fantastic, but it's an 80s action movie. What do you like? Low budget action movie. What do you want?
It's action movie. Like.
It's more not helped by there not being a lot of great dialogue for them to try to emote as well. Because like, it's one thing to not be a top tier actor in an action movie, but if like the dialogue is that terrible, where like, or the writing, my biggest complaint with that whole movie is repeatedly the female lead who is being targeted by these bad guys is constantly just, why don't you guys lighten up? Come on, my life's only been threatened 6 times so far. It's like, you're terrified every time. Why are you blasé now? Like, it really just drove me nuts. And I didn't finish it the first time. I actually watched it in between the time of the last movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, in the Feud, because it was like, I have time now.
Trevor, did you get a chance to watch this one?
I did, and I really enjoyed it. This, every now and then you'll hit one of these old gems that they program for Fantastic Fest. Dangerous Men was one of them, and then Notorious Miami Connection was one of them.
Of course.
And so these are always a treat. People in the comments section, and this is where things kind of, this is where the comments are fun and handy, is it's like the lobby beforehand, and you're sitting there, it's like, oh yeah, what's the secret screening going to be? What's it going to be? I know what it is. No, you don't. And that happens every year, and it was going on. Some people had this pegged. They figured it out.
Really?
It's something that was totally off my radar. So it was like a big surprise for me.
See, because yesterday we were saying it was going to be a new release, because some people were saying, no, I've heard it's definitely not an older release in the chats. But it was like some official people saying that. So I was like, okay, but they were fucking red herringing me, I guess.
I swear and this is conspiracy theory on my part. I don't have any actual inside knowledge. I swear that at least half of the secret screening rumors at any given Fantastic Fest
started by the staff.
Flags started by Fantastic Fest.
I've seen that. I mean, it's enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great stunts in this movie. I think it's a better movie than Miami Connection. Miami Connection's fun for being schlocky. I think the actual production quality and stunts in this movie are a lot better than Miami Connection. It's just Miami Connection is more fun because it's more. Somebody made that, out of a love for wanting to make a movie, and with no budget and no idea what they were doing, clearly. And I think it kind of plays better for me, at least, because of that.
I found this enjoyably absurd at points. I mean, but I was enjoying it more, I think, for the just the goofiness of the dialogue and how absurd it all is than I was for actually watching the stunts, as it were, which I'm like, oh, those are, man, no way that there was an insurance company anywhere near this production. That's for sure. But anyway, we have somebody else who's trying to come into the stream. I can't quite make out who it is from this tiny little box here at the bottom of the screen.
This will be fun.
Hello.
Oh, hey. Everybody's
okay.
How are you doing?
Doing great, guys. How have y'all been?
Good. Are you attending Fantastic Fest, I assume?
Yeah, this is probably the most movies I've ever seen during a Fantastic Fest.
For those not in the loop, Terry is a longtime notorious volunteer for the festival.
Indeed.
Working while we're partying.
Yeah, so you always just get to listen to other people and say like, boy, I sure hope they play that at the volunteer party.
Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I gotta figure out which ones I'm gonna try and see. Because usually I get to see movies the next week, when we have the second run of things. So it's like the whole first run of movies, I'm just, so what was good and what happened and what do I have to see that I can't miss because I only get the one chance versus everyone else who gets maybe like 2 chances to see something.
Terry, did you see Action USA?
I didn't. I was out for a little bit today trying to enjoy some of this Denver weather. It just kind of dipped. It was like 80 yesterday and now it's 40 degrees out. So
that sounds so
fall.
Good.
Yeah. We're actually, it's like, it's pretty much fall here. It's like 87. So
it's the weather in Austin where you can go outside as opposed to August when it's like, it's another day of 103. Well, I guess I'm staying indoors.
It's not dangerous to be outside, so it's autumn.
One
For 2 weeks of the year, we get autumn.
One thing I did want to point out about Action USA, and if this got mentioned somewhere, if it got brought up, like I missed it, but I did notice that William Smith, not Will Smith, much like the Jon Stewart is not Jon Stewart, is featured in this movie, character actor. He was also in Attack of the Bee-Girls last night during the Master Pancake Theater. So we had a little cast kismet there.
Oh, we're starting to find what the threads are this year. Someone suggested earlier in a chat that it was People on Fire being the thread so far this year. And I'm like, okay, I think I've seen 3 People on Fire, maybe? I don't know. It's a little too soon to say. 2. I mean, fingernails being ripped off, maybe?
Yeah.
That's always a rough one. But yeah, I was going to say also another interesting one there was it does star Gregory Scott Cummins, who most of us will probably know from Always Sunny, who plays Mac's dad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did not put that together at all.
I believe somebody in the Fiends group had mentioned that, and I was like, what, really? And it's, wow, you age differently than I expected.
Also played the much celebrated acrobat thug #1 in Batman Returns.
Oh my!
They're all like we said.
I kind of want to look that up now and be like, hey, look, it's Mac's dad. Just do that with somebody randomly.
All right, so let's talk about the big movie that came out during this thing, which was today, which is The Boy Behind the Door. And I say big movie, I mean, they're all big movies to one extent or another. They're all big movies to the fans, depending on what they're excited about. This I knew nothing about at all, and was like, all right, well, it looks like a horror movie. I'm ready for a horror movie. I'm always ready for a horror movie. Let's give it a shot. And this is directed by David Charbonnier. Is that correct? Terry, do you know?
No,
pronunciation is not my game.
Okay, fine. Fine. No one knows. We're great at our research here. And
Chris, why don't you step on it some more? It'll be okay.
I know. It's, me. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Excuse me, gentlemen. I know what it is, but I'm sorry. I'm going through a tunnel.
That's fair. I'm going to believe that you said it correctly when you were in the tunnel. But so this is a movie that in horror doesn't always work when you take little kids, and make them the main characters. It's a very much a toss-up if that's really annoying or if it just makes it terrifying. And the story here, we'll get to the answer to that question in just a second. In this particular film, these 2 kids, Bobby and Kevin, played by Lonnie Chavis and Ezra Dewey, both relative newcomers, I'm assuming, to acting. They're like, normal kids. They're best friends, and they play baseball out in the field, and they're like talking about their dreams, and then somebody knocks them over the head and puts them into the back of a car, like less than 5 minutes into this film, and you're going, oh, it's going to be that kind of movie, is it? All right. So with no time wasted, we're like, all right, so what's going on? And we see one kid is dragged out of the trunk screaming. The other one is tied up in the back of the trunk trying to get out, and hearing his friend screaming, slowly going further and further away. And it turns into a film where the one kid gets away, but then can hear the other kid screaming and makes a decision and he kind of looks around like the house is in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, I can't let my friend be in there. I'm going to go back in after him. And so it's a movie where this kid is running around this huge country farmhouse, trying not to let the person in question in the house know that he's there and rescue his friend. And it is got to be the most tense film I've seen in a theatrical experience for me since like Green Room.
Yeah, that's fair.
I bailed out of this quick because I was just like, I'm not emotionally ready for purely just child torture and potential rape, which I saw finish the coming this movie. Like, that's not how my Sunday is geared up right now. And then Chris told me after, he's like, wow, that was tense. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, the one thing I would assure anyone who's like hears that and goes, fuck, I don't know if I can handle that kind of darkness. There is no actual, it doesn't go to any kid actually getting raped, although the fear is that that's what's going to happen, but that does not actually happen in the course of this film. So if that's for a lot of people, and understandably so, that would be your drawing line.
Well,
don't worry.
And I think that's part of what makes this work. And it's something that I key into on a lot of movies is just inferential storytelling. They're not spelling it out for you. You pick up little things here and there. You're assuming you're knowing what's going to happen to these kids once they're kidnapped and get where they're going. And what's also really compelling in this movie is that you get there before the kids get there. The kids have this certain naivete, and when the stakes start to occur to them, it's a whole different, like it hits them different. Well, number one, they're in the situation. Number two, they're kids. It takes them a second to get there. And so there is that suspense of you as the audience knowing something they don't that just kind of hangs over this movie. And it's a really tense, really suspenseful film for me. Terry, you had some strong feelings about this one too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, because I mentioned that. I was just, as the director said in the Q&A about, just having the lead character being, a person of color, and that you don't really see that too often, but in reality, that is who is affected most by, child trafficking, is children of color the most, and you really don't hear too much about it on the news or anything. It's just, children. And what people think is the default would be, a little white girl goes missing. You remember those stories of that happening all the time. So to see a person of color kind of like brings that matter to attention and be like, this kid right here, he's more likely the one to actually be kidnapped by someone.
And
so
the film pointedly calls attention to that. Even says, yeah, you're basically not as worth as much as the white kid. Like, wow. Keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
But I like the build up, as Trevor was saying, like, we know what's gonna happen. You're like, oh, this is about to happen to these kids. But it's like clue by clue, the boy starts finding things. He's like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, we're just kidnapped. Oh, we're not just kidnapped. Oh, this is gonna get worse for us, way worse. He keeps seeing what's gonna happen to him, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's figuring it out.
Yeah, I love I love, first off, that there is a political context to this, certainly, that's there. I mean, there's even a quick shot of like the perpetrator's car has a Trump sticker on it to make it.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty good.
Best part.
But it doesn't. But it also is like, it doesn't feel the need to keep mentioning it. It's like, okay, there's a subtext there to talk about, to discuss the film within that character, but it's not necessary either. I love that these kids do things real kids would probably do. They don't always make the smart decisions. They don't always do the obvious. They, like, when there's a gun lying there, they don't think, I should grab that gun. They think, I got to run and get the fuck out of here. They make kid decisions. There's a scene where one of them is like, okay, I'm going to get in this car and drive it, only to realize, wait a minute, I don't know how to fucking drive a car.
and then it was a stick shift. So it's like, awesome. Oh yeah, you're not.
Yeah, that was so refreshing, because you watch movies, especially these cat and mouse kind of survival hide and seek movies. It's like somebody picks up a gun and suddenly they're a badass with it. In this, the antagonists aren't even that particularly good at shooting their gun.
Yeah.
They crack off several rounds that don't hit. When one does, it doesn't necessarily hit where you think it's going to hit. And so there's just a lot of plausibility here, where it just seems like they went over the script that one extra time and just made it a little more believable and a little more special. But at the same time, I also think that aids in that creep factor, because it does feel a little more authentic and a little more real. And then it raises the stakes for you. And we're already dealing with this very taboo subject. We're also dealing with something that is very much in the zeitgeist right now on social media and in discussion. And so you apply that with a I guess, more realistic veneer, and it just makes it that much creepier.
Yeah. And it even knows how to have fun at points, which I was not expecting, because it is kind of overwhelming. Like my stomach was just like, and not in like a hostile way, I mean, just like, you are so concerned for these kids to make it out. And they do this great job of just not showing you who the actual perpetrator is until this moment when they're about to, and you're like, and then it's not exactly what you expect either. And that's really cool.
It was a good twist.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it wasn't like a twist, but it was like your expectations were different than what they were. And they managed to have little moments that are funny. There's a moment where someone gets their finger cut off, and I laughed so hard. It was so perfect. I was like, that's one of the all-time great horror movie moments. I swear to God, I'm not ever. I want that clip and just use it for my background or something.
Well, hey, Chris, you brought up Green Room, and I think that's a really fantastic allegory, because Jeremy Saulnier has that penchant for finding those moments of levity in very, very dark films.
Mm.
It was several years ago. I was just singing the praises. I can't remember if it was Blue Ruin or Green Room, but I think it was Stephen DiGennaro, the director, hopped in the comments and said, people don't give this movie enough credit for as funny as it is. And that's true of both of those films, and that's true of this movie. Finds some really neat, gory, horror, sincere moments to do those things, and they pay off really well.
And I almost don't want to say this. It's not really a spoiler specifically in any way, but the movie partially functioned for me as tense as it was because all rules are officially off now in horror movies. Like, especially at a festival, you don't know what they're going to do. Like, you don't know how dark this thing is going to get. And so if this was a wide release Hollywood film, I'd be like, not that worried. But watching a little festival horror film like this with two kids, like anything could fucking happen to these kids.
That Fantastic Fest is a blank check to just do crazy, terrible things. There's a year that is almost affectionately called the rape year of Fantastic Fest because they're just like, hey, this year is just, we're not holding back and we're just going to go crazy on that. And it's kind of what Fantastic Fest does is at least one topic each year is not going to be, hands off. We're just going to be fully not pulling any punches and doing that. And I will say, Chris, you guys talking about this movie. Yeah, I'm going to try to find a way to see it now because it's one of those things, just like you can be blindsided by things at Fantastic Fest if you go into them blind. And I was just like, nope, 15, 20 minutes in, I did not see my Sunday going this way. I need a breather right now for a second.
I would say in a Fantastic Fest movie, the moment a dog shows up, I'm like, you fucked up, dog.
Gone. Dog's dead.
Oh, yeah.
You shouldn't have been in a Fantastic Fest movie, dog. You were so dead.
What was it? The first movie that we had this year was Teddy, and it was like, oh, yeah, all these animals dead. Every single one of these animals are dead.
It's just a bad doll being a dog or a cat, even. They're just weirdly, the Fantastic Fest family, the fans seem to be bigger cat people, certainly. And that's not a reference to the film, but like, you know what I mean? Like, people love cats. I think it's a Scott Weinberg thing. I don't really know, but in the films, it's dogs. I don't know why. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I was gonna say the dog killing is the first time talking about Fantastic Fest with Brian Salisbury that I've ever heard him hate a movie. He's like, they just killed that dog. Like, it was just so brutal. I'm like, Brian, you've watched terrible things, but that dog didn't deserve it. I'm like, oh, Brian. So sweet. I get it. But
that's why you love John Wick so much. He came out of that one because he'll leave a movie if a dog dies. But like, John Wick is like, that whole movie was like just totally cathartic for me. It was like revenge for every unjustly killed dog ever in films.
Like, to be fair, like, obviously the staff does not go out and seek out films specifically where a dog dies, but it is a pretty good litmus test because, Ben mentioned it. There are years where there's some pretty challenging content out there.
Oh yeah.
And so, having that litmus test and having a bit of that reputation for, oh yeah, this is a film festival, you're likely to see some pets in peril. Like, if that's going to bug you, then we need to ask some questions about whether or not you're prepared for, the upper levels of this fest.
Has PETA ever sent us a cease and desist letter?
I will say, I'm only going to say no because Tim would post that everywhere if they did.
No actual animals are harmed, but we're still sensitive to imaginary harm of animals. So,
But we used to harm animals, though.
Yeah, that's
the
hog hunt.
Come on.
Does anyone remember the hog hunt?
Yeah,
I think I'm one of the only witnesses to the hog hunt who's actually had to see it.
You went on the hog hunt?
I was there. Yeah, Devin. Devin's like, yes, Jerry. Oh, Devin, I'm not your assistant because you didn't give me barbecue, but me and Doug smoked. Trevor was there, so. I don't know where you're at, Devin. I miss you though.
I do want to say, and I think Trevor could have hinted at this, is like there are markers that Fantastic Fest gives us to give you a hint at least to what each movie's going to bring. So, I mean, I'll say a lot of times that's the most I do going into a movie is I'll read like the title and then I'll skim, okay, what's the content of this to kind of get an idea what I'm going at. Because we talked about the first night, I was like, look, small body horror things like picking off fingernails slowly does get to me, and you got to plan for it sometimes.
Man, every single time, I'm like, or the I'm sorry, the hair coming out of the eyeball this year.
Yeah, that was rough.
Was really
that didn't bother me.
Part for me.
That wasn't
the tongue one got me.
I was like, I was like.
Oh, the shaving of the tongue. Shaving of the tongue.
So I'll definitely say for people who are newer to Fantastic Fest or have heard us talking about it on One of Us for years, definitely, like, you're watching these for these nights and you're worried like I was going into this movie, definitely try to look for, like, there's little symbols on the page on Fantastic Fest that will tell you at least a rough idea of some of the possible triggers that you might have or just what to expect from it, because those are like the bare minimum I recommend anybody just give a quick look at before they decide to watch a movie.
I was like, the tongue shaving didn't bother me, except I was like, dude, you got to use a straight razor for that. Come on, don't you? Doesn't everybody shave their tongue with a straight razor?
I was like, why would you do that? Go to the doctor first, or do that with the tweezers.
Antonio was mentioning in the comments the stylist. There was quite a few scalpings in that movie, and the thing about it in that movie is the Foley work, where you just hear every little bit of sinew, every drop of blood separating from the scalp, just and that just sent it through my spine. And it happens a lot of times in that movie.
Terry, we often like to finish as we start getting toward the end of this. Think about like a favorite Fantastic Fest memory. Do you have like a particularly wild Fantastic Fest memory, or one that just holds? Is like, that's when I think of Fantastic Fest, that's one I like to go back to in my head.
Man, there's just so many,
right? And a lot of them are fuzzy.
A lot of them are fuzzy. Exactly. Gosh, I guess you guys did mention this one earlier, right before I joined, and it's when Doug went to the theater. That was 2012, so that was my first year, and I'll remember it. I just remember the iconic line, and it was at the beginning of the movie. Tim walks out and introduces it, and he just says, "Smoke 'em, if you got 'em."
Yeah.
And that was just like, that made it. That because I was sitting right next to Doug. We weren't friends yet, so it was like, this was the guy that I saw on TV. I'm sitting on the same row at him. I'm at the Alamo Draft House, and now I'm smoking weed in the theater. So I think that's probably my number one memory.
Yeah, they put a stop to that, didn't they?
Yeah, that happened the one time, and then they did a Smoke 'em If You Got 'em. That may have been the same year they did Doug Loves Movies record at the Highball.
They did it at the last year with the original Highball, and I remember at some point actually a cop came in, and the cop just like, "I'm walking out." He's like, "This is Fantastic Fest." He's like, he knows enough.
Yeah,
I know why that cop walked in. The cop actually walked in to ask, will there be other movies later during the week? The cop was asking for information. That was what happened.
I was volunteering that year too, and Doug actually asked me, like, "Hey, you're volunteering. You've probably seen some good movies." Like, Doug, I've seen your show, and I haven't seen much else. That year, I did not sleep. I was living with a friend in Georgetown and working 40 hours while volunteering 24 hours. And a friend was like, "How are you alive?" I'm like, "So much caffeine." And I didn't make it to my first party because I was just like, I'm dead. I drove 40 minutes back and forth every day.
Oh, so thank God they always get some sort of like caffeine sponsor every year at Fantastic Fest, because there's always dudes with like little cans of espresso shots or something. You're like, "I'll take as many as you're allowed to give me. Thank you. Put them right in my bag."
Oh, I think I spoke you this off mic one time, Chris, but the year Marco Aurora came and brought energy drinks.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good drink, actually.
It was a great drink, but like, I do with America, I pop 2 or 3 Red Bulls if I'm trying to stay awake. You can't do that with those. That was a rough morning after that.
They felt like people were the way people were describing it, who were drinking it like with Red Bulls, was like reminded me of something like of a Simpsons episode. It's not legal in any country except the one it's from. It's not dangerous to open in the same room as with children.
So Marco pitching that to you, like, you just stand outside and he'd have like 4 cases sitting next to him on a table and be like, oh, hey, Marco, how's it going? He's like, I mean, tonight this is good. It's like, okay, Marco, yeah, you don't have to pitch it to me. I'm going to drink your drink and it's free at Fantastic Fest. The best thing for that year for me was, I forget which movie it was for Marco, but Brian Salisbury was introducing it, and Brian somehow said, yeah, Marco, try to kick a can off of my head. And there's a great video of it where Marco was terrified to do it too. It kicks over Brian's head, and Brian is not a short man.
No.
And Brian opened his eyes like, I'm not dead, and I didn't hear anything. And Marco goes for the second kick right after Brian opens his eye, and I've never seen him more look like he pissed himself. He's just like, that was the best thing I've ever done and the most terrifying thing I've ever done.
I mean, it would have been a better story if he had actually kicked him in the head, but you know.
Yeah.
Maybe for us. I don't know for Brian.
Oh, God.
I'd be telling that story once a week.
One of my favorite Fantastic Fest memories, and since Devin is in the comments tonight, I'm going to throw this out to him because he did this for me. I don't want to get him in trouble, but the morning of the shotgun shoot one year, they had some no-call, no-shows.
That was me.
Well, you were Devin's like, so when we get there, Devin's like, dude, get in this van. And I said,
you were like, nah, I don't want to go. I was like, Trevor, come. I just picked up Leonard Maltin. Leonard Maltin's coming with us to go shoot shotguns. You gotta come.
And so between the two of you, I got into Leonard Maltin's van with Leonard and Tim Lee. And then I was on their cluster when we all went out and went skeet shooting. So I got to go skeet shooting with Leonard Maltin, and it turns out that's the first time he's ever fired a gun in his life. And he was better than me, which as a Wyoming born and bred resident, they wanted to take my card from me. But just such a dear memory being out there with Leonard Maltin talking about his time on Entertainment Tonight. And then, you could just ask him he loves talking about movies. He and Jessie Maltin, his daughter, have a weekly live show that they do on social media. And they were on today talking and saying some very lovely things about Fantastic Fest and wanting to be here,
Oh,
I think we have a serial killer in the chat. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll look into that. But I will say, yeah, Leonard coming to Fantastic Fest is the most amazing thing because it's just like the way that he's fallen in love with our community. He's like, no, you guys are so passionate about movies. I love being here, and it's like he wasn't a horror guy for years. For years, he kind of was like, I don't get horror movies. And then I remember a year, I think it was the year the Babadook came out. Yeah, because it was him and the Kumail Nanjiani was there. And he's hanging out with Kumail Nanjiani and Edgar Wright watching the Babadook.
I have a funny story about Kumail. He hates me.
Oh, God.
I guess there's a story there.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
Terry, I want to hear that at some point. But I know we have to wrap this up, but I just want to say, if anybody wants to say anything about the movies tonight before we go, and the fact that Trevor looks like he's got a weird top knot because of where he's sitting right now, but it's actually under his glove. Yeah. But if anybody has anything else they want to say about the movies tonight.
Toshiro Mifune look here.
It works for you, brother. It does.
Yeah.
You should go with that. Actually, one of my favorite on-set photos ever is Toshiro Mifune and Kurosawa, but Mifune's dressed up in full samurai gear and he's cigarettes being lit for him by Kurosawa, and it's just the anachronistic, and it's just this great black and white photo of I love that. Anyway, that's all right. Well, I guess that's it. If y'all don't have anything else, we're gonna wrap it up for this one. We will be back tomorrow night after the fest with our post-fest after party. We would love to see anybody who wants to come on, especially if you have some great Fantastic Fest memories you want to talk about. If you saw the movies and you're like, there's something I'm dying to say, we're going to have you actually in here on the video if you want. Just literally write in the chat, hey, I want to be on the video. And do you see this link going on the bottom of the screen? Here, I'll go like this. Whoop. that link going down right below me there. So that is the link that you can put in. I also put it in the chat as well a couple times usually. You can click on that, and that will bring you right into the video. Devin, good night. Good night to everyone. Good night to whoever Trevor's saying.
Night, guys.
I don't know if it's a loved one or a pet, but good night to the person off
I was trying to act like I was shocked that you had moved around I was doing the Brady Bunch gag again. Shit.
So we all start throwing up.
One of these days we'll actually be organized enough to.
Hey, thanks for watching our video. This is Oneofus.net. Like and subscribe to keep us going. Check out all the rest of the videos we have here on YouTube. Go to Oneofus.net for tens of thousands of audio recording podcasts that we've done reviewing your favorite movies and television shows. And you can even become a subscriber there for yet more stuff, including commentaries for movies and television shows. Join Oneofus.net, support Oneofus.net, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.